I'm talking with Filipe Machaz from Guest Centric, and we were just chatting about some of his customers, some of his experience. He works with around 2,000 hotels around the world. He's been doing this for over 10 years. So I wanted to share some of his opinions on the OTAs and kind of set the record straight in a few ways, change a couple of misconceptions people have, and let's have at it. So, Philip, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Great, thanks for coming. Tell me a little bit about how you see the OTA model and how you see the way that most people look at their revenue when they get a reservation from the OTAs.
I think first of all, I think OTAs are great. So they are doing a great job on trying to use technology to get people to book hotels. The only problem is that hotels don't manage the OTAs. So they are concerned with price, they are concerned with the reservations, but they are, I think in my opinion, paying way too much in commissions, and I think that's a problem. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think they're very powerful. I mean, in the olden days, it would take us a whole day to do one thing, and then we got a computer, and then now you could do it in an hour. And then with the OTAs, you could do it in 10 minutes. So the distribution is amazing. But
I think they are driving innovation, and I think that's great, right? So if the OTAs were not out there, I think the innovation and the direct bookings and the websites of the hotels were not at where they are right now. So I think OTAs are great. But again, I see that we should use technology to level the playing field and at least try to reduce the dependency on the OTAs. Because if you look at the numbers, each reservation coming from the OTA will cost an average of 20+%, and that's a huge cost. And normally, what I see at the hotels, it's that hotels, they don't really manage and optimize the number or the cost of every booking. They are concerned about filling up the hotel, but maybe only monthly or quarterly they look at where the bookings are coming from, and I think that's a problem. And obviously there's a lot of dates and specific points in time where hotels could shut down the OTAs and the hotels would be full, and I don't see hotels doing that. And I think that's a problem that could be very easily changed if hotels would manage them on a more active way.
That's right, and that gets into the point that when a guest comes into the hotel, the revenue stream, where that reservation comes from, was really kind of wiped clean. You mentioned that not only do people kind of forget about how much they paid for reservations, but actually Booking.com has a strategy that pushes hotels to treat their guests better for positive reviews. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I've seen hotels that when they see that you're coming from Booking.com, because of the weight of the Booking.com channel, right, and the reputation element of their reservations, they tend to put Booking.com clients on better rooms and giving them little perks just to make sure they get a better review on Booking.com. And that doesn't make sense, because you are not only paying, but you are also serving better a Booking.com customer. And I think obviously that's a problem that needs to be fixed.
And so you're saying that hotels should really look at serving their best rooms and their best rates and their best dates on their website. Why is that?
I've seen specific hotels. I don't know, I remember one that they have maybe 3 or 4 rooms with a view, obviously the best rooms. They only sell at their website. Their best customers go to their website. And I think that's a very interesting technique. I was actually in a client in an hotel in Santa Barbara, and I was telling him about this, like the best suites, it should only sell through the website. and obviously that will secure more revenue or more direct bookings.
And there's cases where on the website they only have 3 months of availability, but if somebody is looking for Comic-Con 2017, they can already book it.
I've seen that and to have a even a more problematic situation, I've seen hotels advertising for those specific events on AdWords and retargeting. And if you would go to their booking engine, they would not have that room available. But if you would go to Expedia or Booking.com, you could book to the hotel. So sometimes you are using AdWords and retargeting and advertisement before you have your own website, your own basic structure complete and done. And I think that's a big problem.
So you're spending money so that you can spend more money.
Exactly.
And so that the OTA has commissions, so they have more marketing dollars, so they can spend more money to block more people from going to your website.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting way to think about the OTAs. It's what they are trying to do. It's that they are trying to create a virtual area around your website, so they block access to guests to go and visit your direct website, because I see the website of the hotel as the battleground. It's where you can win direct bookings, and you have to tell, like Booking.com explains why you should book through their website, because they speak a ton of language. They are the best rate guarantee, and you can literally say the same at your website. And I think that's I see the website as a battleground, and I think there's even the strategy, the revenue strategy. It's not just about price; it's about the product, right? You should sell it correctly at your website.
Well, yeah, and it's just like tennis, right? One player serves the ball. Without Booking.com, without the OTAs, we wouldn't have this vertical search engine. So guests coming into your area wouldn't have even found you in the first place. So that, the person serving the ball, they're playing an incredibly important part in the game. But as soon as the ball crosses the net, it's in your court.
Correct.
If you're not hitting back, if you're not being a good channel optimizer, then you will lose the game.
Yeah. Funny story. I have this was maybe 10 years ago. I have a meeting with one of the VPs of Booking.com, and I asked him, "Hey, why do you charge so much commission? Why it's so expensive? It's huge distribution costs." And he told me, Filipe, I would not see that as a distribution cost. The hotel needs to see our commission as a marketing cost. So basically, the hotels are fueling the OTAs for them to do marketing to them. So that's where I kind of disagree in a way that, okay, if you have to tell a story, you need to start at the website, and you need to control your story. You cannot just rely on the OTAs to tell your story, because like the minute that they show your website as a great place to stay, you just need to go down a few lines and you'll see, okay, in the same place you have other hotels are also great. And like, okay, you are just lost there.
Yeah, no, you don't get to capture the attention. They get the ball back really quick. And this goes to the point of line items in a budget for a hotel's marketing. Your ownership looks at the line items, and it can very easily cross off your marketing budget. Hey, we don't need this. We don't need this. We have a third party doing this for us. But you'll never really be able to cross off a line item for their marketing budget. In 2015, the OTAs collected $15 billion, and the flags collected $11 billion. So, who has a more aggressive marketing machine? Well, the OTAs, of course. But moving on just a little bit, we need to talk about how the OTAs have trained the customers to go to them first, not just as a search engine, but also as the best price. How do you think hotels can change that?
I think it's, again, the website plays a super important role on this aspect, because it's where you have the chance to tell the story and to tell actually that your price is right, that you are the owner of the hotel, that you can serve better the customer. And I think that's where you can make the difference. And it's, again, I've seen thousands of hotels operating, and the ones that have a story are the ones that are successful. So you kind of need to make sure you tell a good story. And this could even go to a point that you could even run an hotel without an OTA. And I think that's kind of like the perfect world. And I've seen, so I don't know, we have a customer in LA that they don't have an OTA. They created their own OTAs in a way. They created their own affiliate markets. And that's super important, because if you do a good job telling your story, eventually you'll have the traffic that's sufficient for you to remove the OTAs out of the game, because it's all about statistics, right? So if you have, I don't know, 1,000 people going to your website and you have 10 rooms, you just need to do the math, and you just need to have that specific conversion ratio to get your hotel full.
And consumers are getting much more savvy. They check a lot of places before going forward, and marketing tools are getting easier. I mean, a hotel can use Facebook targeting to really single out their best guests pretty easily.
Yeah. And there's also, sorry to interrupt you, but there's also other channels that they don't actually cost. Like I remember I was working with Palm Springs Visit Bureau, so they created the booking engine, and they only cost like 3%. But hotels, I don't know why. Don't ask me why, because it's very difficult to explain why they rather pay 15 or 18 or 20% of a booking instead of just trying to do some work with a visit bureau.
I think that goes back to the top. You know, we talked about how the reservation gets washed. Maybe it even gets preferential treatment because the pressure from reviews. And then, you know, people, the revenue manager or the front desk, they say it's not my issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think so OTAs did a great job trying to, and I'm looking at the technology side, trying to simplify the process. So it's very easy to change, right? It's very, very simple. And sometimes if you look at the technology of the hotel, they use old style technology. Once I went to, I remember this funny story. I went to an hotel, a big hotel chain management company here in the US, and I asked them why they didn't have the promotions at the website. And they told me, oh, because it's very difficult to do promotions on our booking engine. And I was like, oh, that's strange, because I've seen that you have promotions on Expedia. That doesn't really make sense. Oh, but Expedia is super easy. I call them and they immediately do that for me. And that's a funny one. So sometimes I see that the OTAs are a priority over the websites. There's a funny story also. There was a friend of mine that used to work at the Accor group, a French, one of the bigger groups in the world. And Accor, the CEO, this was 10 years ago, so he was a visionary. The CEO wrote an internal memo that required people, every time that you had to change a price or a promotion, you would first do it at the hotel website, then only the OTA. And I think that shows, the importance of getting things right first at home, and then you can be concerned about others.
Well, that's managing revenue. My friend Jason McKee, he said, when you walk into a mall or when you walk into Macy's or something like that, what's the first thing you see? It's perfume. Because in 1 square foot of perfume in the case, they can put $10,000 of merchandise. You know, it's the first thing people see, so they're going to make it the most highly lucrative producer possible. And that kind of goes exactly with what you're saying here. I was at the leadership conference, HSMA leadership conference last September, and Jay Litt was talking about how people need to stop thinking about revenue management, driving the price up, driving the price down, and start thinking about becoming managers of revenue. And that really shows us make the biggest gains on your worst days, not on the best days. Don't sell the Comic-Con, sell the days in between. And that's what the CEO from Accor was talking about, right?
Yeah, and it's funny that you are touching that in terms of revenue. I see a lot of people just revenue management. It's not or should not be just moving prices up and down, right? It's also about the value, and because changing price, it's just changing the price. You should look at the offer, right? And see, maybe you could adapt your offer just to create something more interesting for the customer. Maybe package, maybe create a spa offer that will drive more direct bookings. Things that will help you create that story that you need to beat the OTAs, and you can actually create value for the end user, for the guest. And I think I don't see a lot of hotels doing that. So I believe, like, before you change a price or go down on a price, maybe you should try to create a nice package or promotion or something that could make a difference.
And you've talked with account managers at OTAs, and they want hotels to be more competitive. It makes sense from their point of view, right?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. One of the reasons it's because I think it's a very difficult relationship if you have to manage a customer that depends 90% on your revenue. So, and also that creates problems. And it creates this love-hate relationship that's super complex to manage. So they want, the OTAs want to have healthy customers, right? They don't want everyone to depend on them. And I think that's important, and it's their message. And if you look into the future, it's exactly what they are trying to do. I work a lot with Expedia. They are great, and they are super concerned with, okay, what kind of tools can you use? They are adding very interesting revenue management tools to their system. So they are doing good things for the hotel. But the bottom line is that you cannot be dependent on the OTAs. Otherwise, you will not be healthy, right? You are not going to be the balance, right, on your revenues. You are going to be completely dependent on the OTAs, and that's not good. So you need to manage correctly the dependencies.
And so you're saying the first step in doing that is to really understand exactly how much each reservation is costing on a day-by-day basis, so you can get that big picture.
Yeah, I think the first thing that you should do is you should keep an eye, like daily, right? Where are your reservations coming from? Why didn't you get that through direct reservations? Why on Friday you had 10 reservations coming from Expedia and you had 0 from your website? Why? Was the cancellation correct? There was parity. Is the setup of my OTA correct? Are the cancellations parity? It's not just price parity, right? Cancellation parity, room description parity. The rooms are the same name. There's a full topic on how can you optimize the OTAs. But I think that's the next step. You kind of need to get into the OTAs and try to understand if they are different from your website, because people compare. And cancellation policies, it's something very unique, and you see a lot of errors on that area.
Well, those are all really, really important questions. And if 2018 was like 2008 and the economy was going down, just like Calvin Anderson said, that when hotels are suffering, the management groups and the ownership, they will find out really quickly who is just doing their job and who is managing the revenue. And I was up at the Rocket training up in LA, and they were adding to that and saying that, hey, if you want to have a job in revenue management for more than 3 years, you've got to start thinking of how you're creating demand and then how you're harnessing it to get the best margins. So with that, any final words?
I think one of my conclusions here is that revenue management should work closer to marketing. Okay, and sometimes I see that they are totally different in separate groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a conclusion, I think people should look this on an holistic way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first step is look at your website and look at where your reservations are coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and that will help. I don't know. Obviously, we could be here forever talking about this and being creative, and I think this is why I like this space.
Okay, so no more passing the buck on your channel costs. Be creative, tell your story, and make sure that you're engaging people on your website.
Correct.
Cool.
And work with your marketing and work as a team.
Yeah, and do engage with Expedia. Do engage with the third parties.
And ask them help, because they are a great source of information, and they have a lot of information that they can, even about your region and your area, and how can you get more bookings.
Perfect. Well, looking forward to following up on this conversation next time.
Okay,
Thanks so much for dropping by.
Bye, thank you.
I've just been speaking with Filipe Machaz, Vice President of Guest Centric. For any questions that you'd like to ask him, just please mail him at filipe@guestcentric.com. Thank you so much for listening.